Welcome back! In this video, we'll walk through how to set up and manage a work package in the system. Instead of creating a brand new package right now, we'll start by exploring an existing one to understand how it has been configured. So, let's open the work packaging application. Here you can see two work packages already created for monohull construction. One covers steel cutting and plate preparation, and the other is for block assembly and fabrication. Think of these as individual building blocks.
Later on, multiple work packages like these will be combined into an SOW template, which then can be reused across projects.
What we're reviewing here is just one component of that bigger template. Looking at the configuration details, the work package number is generated automatically by the system, and its duration is system calculated. You can choose whether the package is quantity-based. If so, you must define the unit of measurement and specify the quantity of work. In this example, it's set to 10,000 square meters. Next, we have the delivery owner criteria, which define who is responsible for delivering the package. Now, this could be the project manager, the delivery lead, someone you nominate, or in some cases, even the client. In this case, it's assigned to a delivery lead, meaning someone from your team will own the execution. What you see here is just a list of job titles, so you can simply pick the most relevant one. Remember, this is just configuration. Actual assignments happen later once the package is linked to a project with specific start and end dates. We also have checklist options. These allow you to attach safety checks, quality steps, or compliance lists to a work package. Task delivery. Once a task is completed, the system informs it, either through an email notification or a report, so the work can be reviewed, signed off, and formally closed. Each work package has its own structure. For example, here the package is named Block Assembly and Fabrication. It belongs to the monohull construction category with the subcategory set to drillship. The stage matrix defines progress checkpoints that help track completion step by step. Now let's look at the estimation part. For every work package, you have three options to define the cost model: linear, nonlinear, or none. In a linear model, the cost increases proportionally with the quantity. For example, if 10,000 square meters cost a certain amount, then 20,000 square meters will simply double that cost. This is the most commonly used method. In a nonlinear model, the estimation works differently. Here, the cost is calculated based on the resources, materials, and other factors used in the work package. So in this section, you define the key standards and requirements for the work package. You can set the quality standards, delivery method, whether client approval is needed, and the skill level or certification required for the delivery lead. You can also attach checklists here, like safety or compliance checklists, which are created separately in the system and then selected as needed. We'll cover checklist setup in another video. There's also a space for terms of service. These are the terms and conditions that can be linked to quotations, proposals, or tenders that include this work package. We'll demonstrate how that works in detail later. The print name option lets you use one name internally and another in client-facing documents like invoices or proposals. Similarly, you can define a native name for multilingual environments so the work package can appear in Arabic, French, German, or any other language as required. And finally, you can add a statement of work, a short description of what the work package is about, what it covers, and its overall scope. Looking deeper into the package, you'll notice it contains individual tasks. For example, Task 1 is Material Receipt and Inspection, which starts on day 1 and runs for 7 days. Task 2 is Shot Blasting and Primer Application, beginning on day 8 and lasting another 7 days. Task 3 starts on day 11 and runs for 12 days. So let's click on the Edit button and take a closer look at what this task covers. Here you can see the task type, just like we explained in the other video where task types are linked with work delivery centers. By selecting a task type, the system immediately understands that this task is connected to which delivery center. Along with that, you can define the task, start date, duration, and even assign a name of your choice. Now, when it comes to timing, there are time-scaling rules. For example, if you set a duration of 7 days, you need to decide whether that duration should increase as the quantity increases. If it's set to not applicable, then the task will always take 7 days, whether the quantity is 10,000 or 20,000 units. But if you choose quantity-based scaling, you can define a method, say, linear. In that case, if the base is 7 days for 10,000 units, then doubling the quantity to 20,000 will increase the time to 14 days, and tripling it will take 21 days. This ensures the timeline grows proportionally with the workload. Let's move on to resource allocation. This section has 2 options, required and not required. If a task needs specific resources to be executed, we select required. Once this option is selected, depending on the nature of the resource, an additional field called resource type appears. For example, here we have selected production. Since production is always linked with a work center, another field, work center, is also displayed. At this point, we select the appropriate work center to link this production-related resource with. The resource type field provides multiple categories such as material, production, equipment, vehicle, crew, logistics support, and others. Now, if we select a different task where the resource type is material, no work center option appears, because materials are not linked to any work center. Similarly, in another task, quantity inspection and handover, we selected resource allocation equals not required, so no further fields appeared. However, since this task is quantity-based, we defined its scaling method as linear. This means the time required increases proportionally with the quantity of work. With these steps, we have defined the resource requirements for this work package. The system now understands that, for completing 10,000 square meters of work, certain materials are required in specific quantities. At this stage, the system also identifies that sourcing these listed materials is the responsibility of a designated person. The system provides the task start date, deadline, and an electronic material list directly on their dashboard. This ensures that the responsible person knows what date the materials must be delivered to the warehouse, inspected, and ready for use. In resource requirement, there are multiple kinds of resources available. For example, let's add a crew resource. By clicking Add and selecting crew as the resource type, notice the same resource list appears when we create new task. In the resource qualifier, we select the required work title, say machine operator. For scaling, we select quantity of work based, with the method as linear.
Since this is a human resource, rounding must be applied, as like 8.5 person or 8.7 person cannot be allocated. Here, we define the rounding logic.
Suppose the required quantity is 10. We then select the responsibility, whether the resource is to be arranged by the client or the service provider. The next field is charge type. If manpower is billed separately to the customer, outside of the project cost, we choose Not Included. In this case, we have selected Included. Similarly, we can add another crew resource, such as General Helper. Scaling can again be linear or nonlinear, depending on the nature of the work. Let's go back to the task and observe the provisioning tasks also show the same resource type list used in resource requirements. This ensures consistency. Whether we are working at the task level or at the resource requirement level, the system uses the same resource categorization. This linkage allows the system to clearly understand which required resources belong to which work package. So within a work package, we define the tasks to be performed, the resource requirements for each task, the delivery leads, qualified people who can take ownership of the work package. For example, William Welch and Diana are identified as competent delivery leads who can be assigned ownership and responsibility for execution. This is how a work package is configured in the system. In the next video, we will demonstrate how to set up and create a new work package from scratch. That concludes this video. Thank you for watching.